I knew something was off the instant Brad called me Sunshine during our Monday stand-up. That man had the warmth of wet drywall. If he was beaming, it meant someone else's life was about to burst into flames. My name's not Sunshine. It's the woman who kept your fragile, duct-taped infrastructure from folding every time someone coughed near the GPU enclosure, age 42. Systems Integration Specialist. Also the department's involuntary female perspective, as if hormones made data packets travel faster. I wasn't loud. I wasn't flashy. I was consistent. Precise. Unapologetically competent. Apparently, according to Brad and his beer pong-winning nepotism spawn of a nephew, that made me too academic. I'd spent half a year reworking our data rack design. Compact, efficient, shock-tolerant. Built to survive turbulence testing at high altitudes. Our current setup cracked under pressure, literally. Blink at it wrong and the thing buckled like off-brand patio furniture in a hurricane. My redesign didn't. Mine held firm. Somewhere deep in the aerospace pipeline, someone noticed. A quiet audit had already labeled it promising. Only 3 people knew: myself, a contractor I spoke with once, and, unfortunately, Brad, whose surveillance tendencies made the NSA look lazy, but of course, none of that existed aloud. Aloud, I was the quiet one in the corner with a clipboard and a distaste for middle management bathroom humor. The one who asked, in front of the execs, why we were still using aluminum chassis when titanium-laced hybrids had cleared thermal qualification 3 months earlier. Too slow, Brad muttered. We need doers, not thinkers. So I thought. And I built. And I logged every late-night session at that cursed corner terminal, compiling version after version. Each schematic saved locally. Each mirrored remotely, password-protected, time-stamped, disguised as budget invoices. Not paranoia. Pattern recognition. The last employee who created something groundbreaking? Brad claimed authorship, handed the guy a commemorative plaque, and let security walk him out 2 weeks later. Speaking of plaques, 97% of you lurkers never subscribe. That's like watching someone dig through toxic workplace trauma with surgical accuracy while sipping your cold brew and never even hitting like. Hit that button. Help caffeinate the cause. Back to the racks. There's an art to server hardware. Not just airflow or heat sinks. It's cable placement, serviceability, modular coupling, every choice impacting performance like an orchestra tuned by thermodynamics. I'd drawn it all by hand. Sketched on napkins. Modeled during lunch while Brad tried to settle arguments about ribs like barbecue sauce could replace strategy. When I knew the prototype worked, when the math stopped blinking red and the stress curves finally held, I printed the final schematic. Signed it with an actual pen, and locked it in my bottom drawer. Just one copy. Labeled with a sticky note only I would understand, in case of Brad. The week it all started unraveling began with a harmless subject line, an internal audit. Flagging active projects for efficiency analysis. Most colleagues groaned. I didn't. My metrics were pristine. I had no clue that folder was about to become a battlefield. But Brad? Brad did. The results landed in our inboxes like polite detonation. HR called it a workflow review. Everyone knew better. This was a scavenger hunt for dead weight. I wasn't sweating. My benchmarks were airtight. My redesign outperformed legacy models by margins no one could spin. What I didn't expect was how fast the fallout hit Brad. By day 2, the audit flagged my initiative as exceeding expectations by 17%. That number might not light fireworks for civilians. But in our world? Shaving 1% off heat bleed is like discovering fire and indoor plumbing simultaneously. My designs. Degradation index was half that of Brad's favorite legacy unit. Mine held up under artificial gravity shifts. His warp-like cafeteria leftovers. Brad didn't speak during the meeting. Just sat there, Sharpie flipping in his fingers like he wished it were a knife. Then the contractor, tall, quiet, sharp-eyed, leaned forward for the first time. Would love a one-on-one walkthrough, he said, not to Brad. To me, polite. Direct. Unshaken, Brad tried hijacking it. We can review it together, he said, already hijacking the air in the room. But the contractor shook his head. I'd prefer to schedule directly with her. Solo. The silence hit like a dropped wrench. Brad didn't hide his scowl. Just muttered something about coffee and stormed out. 2 days later, I briefed the contractor. In conference room C. That glass box always smelled faintly like microwaved broccoli and broken morale. I brought schematics. Load curves. Engineering notebooks. He listened like someone who'd once lived inside a blueprint. Asked meaningful questions. By the end, he shook my hand. I think this work matters more than you know. Keep going. I should have locked down everything right then. But I didn't. I went back to my station. Brad was leaning on my chair like he was auditioning for a corporate LinkedIn thirst trap. Heard your meeting went well, he said too casually. What did you two discuss? Thermals? Stress dispersion. Data architecture, I said. He fake laughed. You always get so technical. You should let me help translate. I'll dumb it down for the client deck. I'm good, I replied, but he didn't leave. Not really. For the next week, he hovered. Poked. Asked to compare numbers. Suggested merging timelines into a joint effort. I smiled. I nodded. I redirected. Then, at night, I started mailing myself encrypted copies. Each labeled, versioned, zipped, password, buried under innocuous file names. I even started logging every terminal I used. Not fear. Experience. Then came the final straw. I caught him at my machine. Just checking your backup status, he said, trying to sound casual. My backups run nightly, I replied, steel in my tone. That evening, I ran them twice. One to the internal drive. One to a private device. Then I opened the locked drawer, placed my palm on that folder, and whispered the quiet oath I'd been holding for months, just in case. Thursdays had a smell. In that building, at least. Overcooked microwave salmon from the second-floor break room. Burnt coffee filter residue. A faint electrical buzz that always meant someone somewhere had ignored a maintenance ticket too long. I never liked Thursdays. But that one? That one deserves a special plaque in hell. I returned from lunch, half a turkey sandwich, crusts torn off, eaten in my car while doom-scrolling job postings I wasn't brave enough to apply for, and noticed something wrong before I even sat down. My screen was dead, not asleep. Not frozen. Gone. Pitch black. No cursor. No flicker. Nothing. Mouse unresponsive. Keyboard silent. My gut tightened, a coiled wire wound too tight. I tapped the power button. Once. Twice. A third. Finally, a faint blinking underscore emerged on the corner, followed by a string of characters I'd never seen before, an error code that read more like a countdown than a malfunction. I clicked into the shared folder. Empty, not just missing a file or two, erased. Gone were my renderings. Gone were the airflow heat maps, the stress distribution simulations, the hand-drafted module alignments, the controller integration specs. Everything. Even the scrap temp folders I never organized. Like someone vacuumed my presence off the server. And salted the earth behind them. Panic crackled behind my teeth. I yanked open the bottom drawer. Still there. Physical binder. Original printouts. Thumb drive clipped beneath the cover like a buried artifact. My hands shook as I wrapped fingers around it, heart hammering like a kicked engine block, and then came the voice. Well, that's unfortunate. Brad, leaning against the cube partition like it owed him rent. That smug little grin stretched across his face, the one he used when delivering HR warnings disguised as jokes. You missed your deadline, he said, tone dripping with artificial sympathy. Such a shame. All that time, all that effort, and nothing to show. I stared, silent. Jaw locked. He dangled a sheet of paper like a magician revealing a rigged trick card. Archived. Marked incomplete. Flagged it myself. The paper was real. HR's watermark glinted faintly near the corner. I could barely swallow. Excuse me? He shrugged. It's not personal. Just can't keep underperformers on critical infrastructure. My blood boiled. My eyes darted between his face. And that forged documentation. I wanted to scream. To throw the nearest paperweight through his front teeth and watch his delusion spill out like marbles, but I didn't. Instead, I slipped the USB into my inside coat pocket like a sacred relic and zipped it closed. Smooth. Silent. Surgical. You'll be escorted out shortly, he added, not looking up from his phone. Standard protocol. 5 minutes later, compliance showed up. Karen. Clipboard in hand, eyes apologetic in the same way a guillotine might apologize for gravity. This isn't about your abilities, she murmured, gently removing my access badge. Just circumstances. I said nothing. Held my spine upright. Let security flank me without flinching. The walk to the elevator felt like moving through concrete. Colleagues pretended to type. Monitors suddenly fascinating. One person, Tim, from QA, met my gaze. Not pity. Something sharper. Something closer to guilt. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. The doors closed. I was gone. Once outside, I slid into the driver's seat, locked the doors, and sat completely still. Grip tightened around the flash drive so hard I thought plastic might crack under pressure. Breath shallow. Muscles frozen. Brain white noise static. No sobs. No outburst. Just fury so dense it had masked that he thought that was the end. He truly believed erasing the files deleted the person who created them. For the next few days, the world felt heavier. Gravity itself had turned spiteful. I woke before sunrise, stared at the ceiling like it might blink back. No Slack notifications. No meeting invites. Just silence and a stack of unpaid bills that felt louder than any calendar alert ever had. Point 12. Job applications went out the first day. Point 2. Auto responses. No interviews. By the second week, 30 more submissions. One form letter rejection that didn't even get my name right. Dear applicant, like I didn't even exist anymore. I reached out to coworkers, select ones. Carefully worded messages. Light. Casual. No replies, not even Tim. Fear spreads faster than facts, and everyone knew Brad had backup power in that place. Nobody wanted to get burned for offering me oxygen. Out of desperation, I sent a short email to the contractor, G. Harris. Just enough context to spark memory without triggering any red flags. No attachments. Just breadcrumbs. No response. By the third week, I stopped checking email entirely. Every message was either silence or scams. Someone offered me a discounted course in underwater welding. Someone else asked if I wanted to join a spa franchise. Rock bottom wasn't dramatic. It was slow. I stopped showering. Ate cereal out of mugs. Didn't leave the apartment for 3 days straight. I told myself maybe Brad was right, maybe I'd built something unremarkable, maybe I wasn't a threat, just invisible. Then my phone rang. Tuesday. 11:47 a.m. Unknown number. California area. Code. I stared at it for 2 rings, thumb hovering. Could have been another robocall. Could have been fate. I answered. Hello? The voice on the line was smooth, composed, almost clinical. Hi. I hope I'm not interrupting. I'm contacting you regarding a data architecture design presented internally under codename Aurora. I didn't respond, not right away. He continued. We believe you originated the prototype. We'd like to confirm that. My throat felt like sandpaper. Who are you? A contractor representing an entity that cannot yet be disclosed. We'd prefer to continue off record. But I assure you, this inquiry is friendly. A pause. We're willing to fly you to Pasadena. All expenses handled. NDA included. If you're interested. I looked at the flash drive still sitting in its plastic sleeve next to a crusty coffee mug on my desk. My pulse roared in my ears. I'll need time. You've got 48 hours. But I recommend packing tonight. Click. Line went dead, and just like that, gravity shifted again. 2 days later, I stepped off a regional jet in Burbank under an alias printed on a badge clipped to my jacket. They didn't even use my actual identity for the flight manifest. That's how serious they were. A man named Marcus met me at the gate. Square jaw. Buzz cut. Aviators despite the overcast sky. His polo shirt was blank. No logos, no insignia, just beige fabric stretched across both shoulders. He didn't shake hands. Simply nodded and gestured toward a matte black Suburban idling. At the curb. No small talk on the ride. Just beige buildings slipping past tinted windows, one after another like a looping background in a forgotten video game. Concrete. Chain link. Faded flags. Then we passed a checkpoint. Then another. Then a third. ID scans, mirrors under axles, silent nods between guards whose names I never heard. That's when the scenery changed. Security turned invisible. The landscaping became manicured. Air carried that sterile chill I remembered from hospitals and data centers. We pulled into a campus labeled only Annex B. It looked like a middle school built by conspiracy theorists. Inside? Clinical corridors. Flickering lights. Whiteboards scrawled with math that hadn't seen a textbook since the Cold War. People moved quietly, all on missions they never voiced. Marcus handed me a bottle of water. Wait here. Then vanished behind a sliding door that whispered shut like a secret being swallowed. 5 minutes later, a woman in a navy blouse walked in holding a folder thick enough to be considered evidence. I'm Lisa, she said. Come with me. We need to discuss your hardware. That sentence should have scared me. It didn't. They brought me into a conference room where 2 individuals were already seated. One flipped through diagrams. The other held a printed schematic so familiar. It made my skin prickle. My annotations. My pen strokes. Even the way I'd boxed the corner legends. You drew this, he asked. Yes. And this formula here, your handwriting? I nodded again. Lisa slid a second folder toward me. Inside? My design. Not a clone. Not a facsimile. The original. Pulled from the USB still sitting zipped inside my laptop sleeve. We want you to rebuild it. Entirely. On-site. 6-week civilian contract. Full authority. Resources guaranteed. I blinked. You want the framework reconstructed from scratch? Lisa tapped the folder. Correct. You're the only one who's tested it in real-world conditions. Another voice spoke. Marcus. He'd reappeared, silent as a ghost. We received a similar design from a firm claiming development rights. Almost identical configuration. But results didn't match yours. Structural weaknesses. Poor durability. Thermal limitations. He flipped to a page, slid it forward. At. First, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then I saw it.my filename.my typo, the misspelled word in the corner, chassis with 3 S's. The same error. I made during a late-night revision and never fixed. Someone had submitted my design, poorly cleaned up and barely disguised, as theirs. They copied it, I whispered. They tried, Marcus said. But they misunderstood your intent. They didn't know how to run the stress profiles. Routing was flawed. Integration failed under simulated load. Lisa's voice softened. We didn't contact you out of pity. We contacted you because your version works. For the first time in months, something inside me clicked. Not everything. Not all the way. But enough. I picked up a marker and walked to the whiteboard. Let's begin. The lab they gave me looked nothing like the fluorescent cryptide left behind. This one hummed with precision. Steel-topped benches. Airflow indicators above every work surface. Diagnostics panels embedded along the walls like spaceship controls disguised as HVAC. They assigned me a cot in the auxiliary dorm. Single window. Fresh linens. Empty shelves. I unpacked slowly. 2 shirts. 1 hoodie. A pair of worn-out jeans. Everything else felt irrelevant. My suitcase looked more like an emergency kit than luggage. A hard drive. Notebooks. Spare batteries. And that flash drive, still encased in the zip pouch, zipped again inside a travel sock. Security was passive. I wasn't micromanaged. No one hovered. No one tried to polish the presentation or translate for stakeholders. I was just given space, and I filled it. First, I rebuilt the central frame. Slimmer. Reinforced through a triangular substructure I doodled on a diner napkin during a bout of insomnia 2 weeks after getting fired. That napkin? Still folded. Between 2 pages of my sketchpad. I adjusted the load tolerance gradient by 3 degrees, reducing tension at the critical junctions by 14%. Added pressure distributing grommets across all shock nodes. Every change felt like peeling paint off a masterpiece to reveal the artwork beneath. The first prototype materialized by week 3. Polished. Balanced. Ruthless. They brought in tools I'd never touched before. Subsonic welding units. Quantum stress monitors. Equipment that made my old workplace look like a garage tinkerer's dreamboard. By week 4, it stood on its own legs, literal ones. The modular system extended into a test rig. It looked like sculpture carved from stability itself. I ran scenario after scenario. Impact calibration. Geothermal variance. Vibration endurance under simulated orbital conditions. It didn't just survive. It thrived. When the engineers observed it endure a 40G shockwave and retain full connectivity, one of them dropped his stylus. You redefined stability, he muttered. I didn't respond. Just logged the metrics and uploaded backups, one to the local drive, one to the cloud, one to an encrypted USB I stored beneath the lab's mini fridge inside a fireproof envelope labeled with a fake invoice number. Triple redundancy. Standard. Protocol. Never again. Then, near the end of my 5th week, someone new appeared. Mid-40s. Clipboard. Quiet shoes. Didn't offer a handshake. Just circled the structure like a curator examining a recovered artifact. This is yours? He finally asked. Yes. No external assistance? Solo. He nodded. Recommendation for full-scale deployment will be submitted tomorrow. He walked out. I stayed behind and sat on the tile floor, back against the testing console. Palms resting on my knees. For the first time since Brad grinned over my locked terminal like a vulture in loafers, I let myself breathe without defense. That evening, a message arrived through their secure internal network. No greeting. Just a subject line, heads up, text below, Sierra's under active review. Inspector General notified. NDA still binding. No signature. I stared at the screen. No exclamation marks. No confetti. No high fives, but the meaning landed with a weight no HR document could replicate. The wheel had turned, and now, finally, it was grinding in the other direction. The first signal didn't come through an official memo or subpoena. It came through LinkedIn. I was elbow deep in voltage readings, chewing on a gas station granola bar that tasted vaguely like cardboard and regret, when the notification lit up. My screen message request, Tim H. QA specialist. Same guy who'd given me that half-second nod during my elevator funeral march. Same man who never looked away when everyone else turned coward. His message was 4 words, you heard about Brad. I stared at it. Didn't type. Another ping followed. Don't reply. Search Sierra plus probe. You earned this. Granola forgotten. I opened a new tab. Search results loaded like a dam breaking. Headlines. Subheadlines. Forum whispers, procurement irregularities at Sierra Systems. Anonymous leak triggers multi-agency review. Intellectual property conflict escalates. I kept scrolling. Somewhere near the 5th link, my own test header stared back at me, embedded inside a comparison matrix. My original architecture, watermarked. File name intact. Even the damn hyphen spacing was identical. They hadn't just stolen it. They'd uploaded it sloppily. Clumsily. Desperately. Sierra's copy failed every benchmark. Couldn't maintain structural cohesion under rotational drift. Failed under rapid cycling heat flux. And worst of all, internal documentation showed mismatched timestamps, versions backdated manually, metadata scrubbed by someone who thought a folder rename counted as camouflage. The government didn't miss it. Point 1 paragraph mentioned suspicious file cloning across restricted cloud partitions. Another referenced unauthorized access to sandbox development instances. That was the polite version. The real translation? Someone inside tried to cover their tracks with digital duct tape, and the feds caught the smell of smoke. Contracts suspended, vendor relationships reviewed. RFPs frozen mid-process. Then came the big one. Leadership update. Brad Whitmore no longer listed among executive contacts, his photo disappeared. So did his nepotistic nephew, both quietly scrubbed, replaced with a placeholder email and the phrase, interim restructuring. I didn't cheer. I didn't email anyone. I didn't pour a drink or dance. I read the entire article 3 times, screen brightness dimmed, heart steady. The punishment wasn't loud. It was surgical, and for the first time in months, I felt stillness that wasn't grief. It was confirmation. I hadn't imagined the sabotage. I hadn't overreacted. I hadn't been too academic or slow to execute. I was the benchmark. Week 6 arrived, prototype cleared every obstacle. Stress profiles flatlined. Thermal readings hovered precisely within tolerance. Vibration distortion? Non-existent. System reliability under duress? Unmatched. Lisa reviewed the data without speaking. She finally looked over, eyes tired but proud. You just reset the curve. I smiled, barely. Fatigue doesn't vanish with praise. It lingers. Especially when it's built from months of being gaslit by an office that rewarded mediocrity wrapped in cologne. That night, I uploaded my final notes. Triple backups, as always. Then, it appeared, calendar alert. Subject, private design signing. Location, Langley Campus, NASA HQ, security clearance, required. Itinerary attached. The text didn't need to spell it out, they were going to put my name on it, permanently. Asterisk security didn't blink as I passed through. Point 2 guards. Retinal scan. Silent NOD.NO applause. No red carpet. Just corridors whispering under fluorescent calm, as if the walls themselves knew something important was about to happen. Langley's interior was colder than I expected. Not in temperature, but in intention. Everything felt engineered for permanence. Nothing decorative. No vanity plaques or mission slogans. Just steel, glass, and momentum. Lisa met me outside the vault chamber. She held a folder sealed with crimson wax, the kind usually reserved for top-level briefings or old movies about spies trading secrets in alleyways. Inside, diagrams, thermal charts, compliance records. All of it stamped, signed, notarized by departments I didn't even know existed. My invention had a serial number now. It wasn't just a concept. It had entered history. Point 3 officials flanked the conference table. One wore a badge with letters I wouldn't repeat out loud. Another handed me a titanium stylus engraved with initials, mine. Once you sign, he said quietly, you become the permanent inventor of record. This document enters the federal patent repository, restricted tier. You'll hold primary authorship. No corporate override. I breathe no pitch decks. No VC salivating over diluted equity. No false smiles from men who thought my hoodie meant incompetence, just my work, acknowledged, protected, unstealable. I signed. Point 3 times, once for authorship. Once for security clearance. Once for legacy. The man across from me nodded. We ran internal tracebacks, he added, voice almost gentle. It's true what you suspected. Your entire structure had been copied and misfiled 6 months prior, by someone with elevated credentials. Their audit trail disintegrated under scrutiny. I didn't flinch, Brad. He didn't confirm, but silence sometimes speaks louder than confession. Later, alone in the observation dome, I stared through the reinforced windows. Below, engineers tested propulsion modules. Above, stars flickered like patient witnesses. The horizon curved into darkness as shuttles blinked across the tarmac. Somewhere far away, Brad was probably fighting to salvage fragments of his fake kingdom. Explaining delays. Blaming interns. Drafting denials he no longer had the clearance to issue. And me, I wasn't just vindicated. I was archived, encoded into systems designed to endure beyond memory. The module I built would power components sent into exosphere corridors, maybe even lunar pathways. People I'd never meet would benefit from a design born inside betrayal. From ashes, I built an upgrade. A better version. Of everything. Later that week, I mailed something, not to Brad.to myself. A small envelope containing 2 things, a printout of my patent number, and a photo of my old Sierra badge, burnt at the edges. Asterisk subscribe for more.